It was a bright Tuesday morning when Tamara Johnson stepped into Riverbank Savings, her favorite neighborhood bank. She was wearing her favorite burgundy blazer, her hair neatly done, and her confidence radiated as she held her documents tightly in her hand. Tamara was a successful schoolteacher, respected by her students and community alike. But today she had a different mission, a personal goal that would unknowingly challenge the very walls of Riverbank Savings and set off a chain of events no one would forget. The moment she walked through the shiny glass doors, her heart was light with hope. She needed to finalize a loan application for a new home, something she had dreamed of for years. The neighborhood was changing and she wanted to buy a place for her son to grow up in, a place where dreams could thrive. What she didn't expect was the storm waiting inside. As Tamara approached the counter, the bank manager, a middle-aged white man named Mr. Carlton, looked up sharply. His eyes briefly flickered to her and then quickly away. She smiled politely and said, "Good morning, I'm here to speak with someone about my loan application." Mr. Carlton nodded curtly and said, "Do you have an appointment?" Tamara replied confidently, "No, but I've been a customer here for over 5 years, and I was told I could come in any time to discuss my application." The manager's expression hardened. "We're very busy today. You'll have to wait." Tamara's smile faltered, but she nodded and stepped aside. Moments later, a young teller approached her. "Ma'am, can I help you with anything?" Tamara explained her situation again, but the teller's eyes kept darting nervously toward Mr. Carlton. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but the manager said no walk-ins for loans today." Tamara felt the cold sting of rejection. She looked around. The bank was bustling, other customers being served quickly and warmly. But every glance she made, every small smile she gave, was met with icy silence or polite avoidance. She stood her ground, clutching her papers tightly, refusing to be invisible. Hours seemed to pass like minutes and minutes like hours. The sun outside shifted, but inside, time was suspended in a tense stillness. Finally, fed up with waiting and the dismissive attitude, Tamara approached the counter again and said firmly, "I need to speak to someone now. I have the right to be here." Mr. Carlton looked down at her with disdain. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We just don't have the capacity for your request today." Tamara's voice was steady but her heart was pounding. "Is this because of who I am?" she asked quietly. The room seemed to freeze. Several customers turned their heads, sensing the confrontation. Mr. Carlton stiffened. "That's enough," he barked, his voice rising louder than before. "If you can't follow the rules, you'll have to leave." Tamara's eyes filled with tears, not from weakness, but from the weight of injustice she felt crushing her. She took a deep breath and said, "I'm not going anywhere. I deserve to be treated fairly." It was then that the bank's front doors swung open, and a tall, sharply dressed man walked in with the unmistakable air of authority. Heads turned as the man moved toward the front desk. He was Riverbank Savings CEO, Mr. David Harrington. Known for his no-nonsense leadership and commitment to innovation, few employees dared to cross his path without consequence. Mr. Carlton's face paled. The CEO's presence was magnetic and commanding. He glanced around, immediately sensing the tension in the air. His eyes landed on Tamara, standing resolute and unbowed. "What's going on here?" Mr. Harrington asked, his voice calm but firm. Mr. Carlton stammered, "Nothing, sir. Just a customer waiting for service." The CEO's gaze didn't waver. "Is that so? Then why is she still waiting after all this time?" A hush fell over the bank as all eyes watched the unfolding drama. Tamara met the CEO's eyes and nodded slightly. "I've been here for hours, waiting for help with my loan application." Mr. Harrington's expression hardened. "Mr. Carlton, I want an explanation. Now." The bank manager swallowed hard, clearly rattled. She didn't have an appointment. "Our policy?" The CEO cut him off sharply. "Our policy does not include discrimination. Is that clear?" Mr. Carlton nodded, defeated. "Yes, sir." Mr. Harrington then turned to Tamara with a small, reassuring smile. "I'm sorry you had to experience that. Let me make this right." He motioned for her to follow him to a private office, away from the crowd. As they walked away, whispers and murmurs rippled through the bank. Some customers were shocked, others confused, but everyone knew something major was happening. Once inside the office, Mr. Harrington sat across from Tamara. "Tell me what you need," he said sincerely. Tamara took a deep breath and shared her story, the struggles she'd faced to save money, her hopes for a home, and the barriers she'd encountered at every turn. The CEO listened intently, nodding with empathy. "I promise you, Tamara, this isn't how we do business at Riverbank Savings. I will personally oversee your loan application and make sure it's handled fairly and quickly." Outside the office door, the bank manager sat alone in his office, nursing a bitter cup of coffee. The whispers about the CEO's intervention spread quickly among the staff. Many felt uneasy, knowing this incident would not be forgotten anytime soon. That afternoon, as the CEO returned to his executive duties, he sent a clear message down the line: discrimination would no longer be tolerated at Riverbank Savings. But little did anyone know, this was only the beginning of a battle that would challenge the bank's culture and reputation in ways no one expected. Meanwhile, Tamara's story started gaining attention on social media after a customer secretly recorded part of the confrontation and posted it online. The video quickly went viral, sparking outrage and calls for accountability. News outlets reached out for interviews, community leaders demanded answers, and the bank found itself under an intense spotlight. What would the bank do now? How would Mr. Carlton respond? And what about the CEO? Was his intervention just a gesture, or was real change coming? As night fell over the city, Tamara sat at home scrolling through the flood of messages, her phone buzzing non-stop with support from strangers who admired her courage. But then, just as she was beginning to feel hopeful, her phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Miss Johnson? This is Mr. Carlton. We need to talk." Her heart sank. What could he possibly want now? The voice on the other end was cold and unfamiliar. "You think you've won today, but this isn't over. You've made powerful enemies." Before she could respond, the line went dead. Tamara stared at her phone, a chill running down her spine. The battle was far from over. What happened next? Who would stand with her? And how would Riverbank Savings face the consequences of this explosive confrontation? When Tamara hung up the phone after the chilling call from Mr. Carlton, she felt a wave of unease wash over her. She had hoped the ordeal at the bank was behind her, but now it was clear that her fight was only just beginning. That night she couldn't sleep. The shadows in her apartment seemed heavier, and the quiet buzz of her phone reminded her that eyes were watching, and judging. Meanwhile, inside the sleek glass towers of Riverbank Savings, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The CEO, David Harrington, had immediately called an emergency meeting with the executive team. He was determined to address the discrimination incident head-on, but what he didn't expect was how deeply divided the bank's leadership really was. Some senior managers argued that Mr. Carlton had been unfairly blamed for simply following policy, while others recognized the serious damage the incident had caused to the bank's reputation. David's voice was steady but uncompromising. "This is not just about one customer or one manager. It's about who we are as a company. We must do better, and we will." The boardroom was silent except for the sound of pens scratching notes. David knew the hard work was only starting. Meanwhile, back at the branch, Mr. Carlton was plotting his next move. The call to Tamara had been no accident. It was a warning, and she wasn't the only one feeling the heat. Whispers in the halls suggested that some employees were rallying behind Carlton, resentful of the CEO's interference. The divide between old attitudes and new leadership was widening fast. Tamara, meanwhile, had become an unexpected symbol of resilience. The viral video had ignited a firestorm on social media. Hashtags like #JusticeForTamara and #RiverbankSavingsRacist trended nationally, drawing attention from civil rights groups, activists, and even local politicians. Support poured in from all corners, but with it came threats and intimidation from unknown callers. One evening, as she was leaving her son's school, a shadowy figure parked suspiciously nearby. Her heart raced. Was this linked to the bank's warning? She realized she had to be careful, not just for herself but for her family. The next morning, the CEO surprised the entire staff with a public statement broadcast throughout the bank's branches. David promised transparency, accountability, and immediate training programs to root out discrimination. "No one should feel unwelcome here," he declared. "We are committed to change." But the public show of unity masked the reality behind closed doors. Mr. Carlton was quietly assembling a legal team and gathering documents that he claimed would discredit Tamara's application and question her character. The conflict was escalating into a high-stakes battle that extended far beyond a single loan. One afternoon, Tamara received an official letter from Riverbank Savings. It was a notice that her loan application was being put on hold pending further review. The wording was vague, but the message was clear: she was being stalled. Frustrated but undeterred, Tamara decided to take the fight public. She scheduled a press conference to share her experience and expose the discriminatory practices she believed were entrenched at the bank. As the day of the conference arrived, cameras gathered, reporters buzzed, and the city waited for her to speak. Just before she stepped up to the podium, her phone buzzed again. This time the call was from an unknown number, but the voice on the other end was familiar and unexpectedly kind. "Ms. Johnson, this is Elena Rivera from the bank's compliance department. I have information you need to hear. Please meet me after your conference." Confused but curious, Tamara nodded. After the press conference, which went viral with emotional impact and fierce calls for justice, she met Elena in a quiet cafe nearby. Elena slid a thick envelope across the table. "I can't stay at the bank any longer," she whispered. "But before I go, I want to give you this." Inside were documents and emails showing clear evidence that Mr. Carlton had orchestrated discriminatory policies and pressured employees to block loan applications from black customers. The files revealed a pattern of racism that went far deeper than anyone had imagined. Tamara's eyes widened. This was more than she had hoped for. It was the smoking gun. But Elena's expression darkened. "Be careful who you trust. They're watching. And they won't go down without a fight." Tamara's mind raced. This evidence could change everything, but it could also put her and her family in danger. Back at Riverbank Savings, the board was now facing a crisis unlike any before. News of the leaked documents had reached them, and the CEO was forced to take a stand. David Harrington called an urgent board meeting, insisting on immediate action. But some board members were resisting, worried about the financial fallout and public scandal. Just as the meeting heated up, a bombshell email arrived, sent anonymously to the entire executive team. It contained a video clip from inside the branch, showing a secret conversation between Mr. Carlton and a prominent local politician, discussing how to keep troublesome customers like Tamara out. The room fell silent as everyone realized the corruption ran far beyond the branch manager. Meanwhile, Tamara sat at home, staring at her phone. The support messages kept coming, but so did the warnings. Then, as she reached for her laptop, the screen suddenly went black. The power was out. Moments later, her phone buzzed with a cryptic text: "Stop digging or you'll regret it." Her heart pounded. Who was behind this? Was it Carlton, the bank, or someone else? The battle for justice had turned into a dangerous game of cat and mouse. And the biggest question remained: would the truth come out, or would powerful forces bury it forever? As the city held its breath, one thing was clear: Tamara's fight was far from over. What would she do next? Would the CEO keep his promise? And what shocking revelations were still hidden in the shadows of Riverbank Savings? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The blackout at Tamara's apartment wasn't just a coincidence. It was a warning, and she knew it. Her fight for justice had crossed into dangerous territory. But instead of backing down, Tamara's resolve hardened. She reached out to trusted allies in the community, civil rights lawyers, and investigative journalists. The story was bigger than one woman or one bank. It was about exposing systemic racism entrenched in the very institutions meant to serve the public. Meanwhile, inside Riverbank Savings, the atmosphere was electric with fear and anticipation. The CEO, David Harrington, was fighting battles on two fronts: calming the shaken employees and pushing the resistant board members to act decisively. At a tense board meeting, David laid out the damning evidence: the leaked emails, the video of Mr. Carlton conspiring with the politician, and the pattern of discrimination exposed by Elena Rivera's whistleblowing documents. Some board members shifted uncomfortably, others doubled down on protecting their interests. "We can't afford this scandal," one argued. "But we can't afford to lose our integrity either," David replied firmly. The room erupted into heated debate, threatening to fracture the leadership just as the public pressure mounted. Meanwhile, Mr. Carlton was growing desperate. He intensified his campaign of intimidation, sending threatening letters to Tamara, pressuring Elena to stay silent, and leveraging his political contacts to muddy the waters. but his tactics only fueled the fire. One day, as Tamara met with her legal team, she received an anonymous package. Inside was a flash drive containing more videos, this time showing Mr. Carlton orchestrating a covert plan to manipulate loan approvals and funnel money to certain favored clients. The evidence was explosive. As Tamara and her lawyers prepared to go public, a new player entered the scene, an investigative reporter named Maya Collins. Maya was fearless and had a reputation for exposing corruption. She reached out to Tamara with a plan, a comprehensive exposé that could force Riverbank Savings to confront its dark past once and for all. Together, they began piecing together the full scope of the scandal. As the story gained momentum, the CEO called a press conference to address the crisis. He promised full cooperation with the investigation and pledged sweeping reforms. But behind the scenes, tensions were boiling over. At the same time, Elena Rivera's safety became precarious. She was followed one evening and narrowly escaped an attack that left her shaken but determined to testify. Tamara's support network grew, but so did the threats. The city was watching, the media was hungry, and the stakes had never been higher. Then, just as the investigation seemed to be reaching a tipping point, a shocking revelation hit the headlines. An anonymous whistleblower had uncovered evidence implicating not just Mr. Carlton, but also members of the bank's highest leadership in a cover-up. The scandal now threatened to engulf the entire institution, shaking public trust to its core. As the bank scrambled to contain the fallout, Tamara received a mysterious message: "Meet me where it all began. Alone." She knew the request was risky but felt compelled to find out the truth once and for all. Under the cover of darkness, Tamara arrived at the old branch office, now empty and silent. Inside, she found a single envelope resting on the manager's desk. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were documents that could topple the entire bank hierarchy, but also evidence that someone very close to her was involved in the deception. Suddenly, a shadow moved behind her. "You shouldn't have come here alone," a voice whispered. Tamara spun around, heart racing, only to find herself face to face with an unexpected figure from her past. Someone she trusted deeply. Someone who held secrets that could change everything. The room felt charged with danger and betrayal. The truth was closer than ever, but so was the threat. What would Tamara do? Could she trust this person? And how far were the forces behind Riverbank Savings willing to go to keep their secrets hidden? Tamara's heart pounded as she faced the figure stepping out of the shadows. Michael, her longtime friend and trusted confidant. She had never suspected that he would be entangled in the web of corruption surrounding Riverbank Savings. "Why are you here?" she demanded, voice trembling between anger and disbelief. Michael's eyes were heavy with guilt. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he whispered. "But there's more at stake than you realize." The envelope in Tamara's hands held documents proving not only the bank's systemic discrimination but also that Michael had been coerced into covering up key evidence to protect his own family. Tamara felt torn, betrayed, yet desperate to understand the full truth. Michael revealed a secret deal. Threats had been made against his loved ones, forcing him to work with Mr. Carlton and others to suppress damaging information. "I never stopped wanting justice," he said. "But I was trapped." The two former allies now found themselves forced to navigate a dangerous game together. Meanwhile, the pressure on Riverbank Savings exploded. Public outrage grew louder with each new revelation. Protests erupted outside the bank's headquarters, and politicians demanded full investigations. The CEO, David Harrington, struggled to maintain control, but cracks were showing. The board voted to launch an independent investigation, but behind closed doors, factions plotted to protect their own interests. As Tamara and Michael dug deeper, they uncovered a hidden ledger showing illicit payments made to city officials, evidence of bribery and a vast conspiracy reaching far beyond the bank. Every step forward seemed to expose new threats. One night, as Tamara returned home, she found her front door ajar and her apartment ransacked. Important documents and her laptop were gone. The message was clear: stop or face consequences. But Tamara refused to back down. She doubled down on her alliance with Maya Collins, who secured a whistleblower protection order and arranged a live broadcast to reveal the scandal in full. Just as the broadcast began, the power in the city flickered, and then went out, plunging everything into darkness. In that blackout, a chilling voice came through Tamara's phone: "You're playing with fire. This ends now." Suddenly, the screen flickered back on, and Tamara saw live footage of someone breaking into the investigative journalist's office. The attack was real, imminent, and terrifyingly close. Tamara's world spun out of control. With everything on the line, her safety, her family, her future, she faced the impossible: how to keep fighting when those she trusted most might be the ones turning against her. Just when she thought the storm couldn't get worse, an urgent call came from the CEO's office. David Harrington's voice was tense but resolute. "Tamara, there's something you need to see, something that changes everything about this case." The final revelation was about to drop. But would it save her or destroy everything she fought for? The truth was on the brink of breaking wide open, and the consequences would be life-changing. The CEO's voice on the phone was steady but urgent. "Tamara, meet me at the headquarters immediately. There's no time to waste." Heart pounding, she grabbed her coat and rushed into the night. Arriving at Riverbank Savings, she was escorted to a private conference room where David Harrington awaited, holding a sealed envelope. "This," he said, "is the evidence that will either save the bank or bring it to its knees." Inside the envelope was a confession, handwritten and signed by Mr. Carlton himself. It detailed his involvement in the discriminatory practices, the bribery, and the efforts to cover it all up. But more shockingly, the confession named other high-ranking officials and politicians who had been complicit in the scheme. David explained, "I found this hidden during a recent audit. It's clear someone wanted it buried, but now we have the power to expose the truth." At the same time, Maya Collins was preparing to air the final report live. Tamara and Michael stood side by side, ready to face whatever fallout came next. The broadcast revealed everything: the racism, the corruption, the cover-ups, and the brave whistleblowers who risked everything to speak out. The city erupted in a mix of outrage and hope. Politicians called for resignations. The FBI announced a federal investigation. Mr. Carlton was immediately suspended pending charges, and other implicated officials were forced to step down. David Harrington took responsibility as CEO, pledging to rebuild trust with the community through transparency, reparative policies, and hiring diversity experts. Meanwhile, Tamara was hailed as a hero, a symbol of courage and resilience. But her victory came with a cost. Her life had been upended, her family exposed to threats, and the fight for justice was far from over. As the dust settled, Tamara looked toward the future, determined to keep pushing for change, not just at Riverbank Savings, but in every institution where discrimination still lurked. The final moments of the story showed Tamara addressing a crowd at a community rally, her voice strong and unwavering. "This is not just my story. It's our story. Together, we can tear down the walls of injustice and build a future where everyone is treated with dignity and respect." The screen faded to black, leaving viewers inspired but aware that the battle against systemic racism is ongoing. The end. Moral of the story: true justice requires courage, persistence, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, even when the stakes are high and the path is dangerous. One person's voice can ignite a movement, but lasting change demands collective action, transparency, and unwavering commitment to equality. When institutions fail to serve all their people fairly, it is up to each of us to stand up, speak out, and hold them accountable. Only then can we build a society where respect and opportunity are truly shared by all. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths.